We all have things we hold on to, not because they are expensive, but because they carry the weight of a life lived. A single, small object that can hold a million moments, a thousand whispered words. For me, it was a silver tea set. It wasn't something you'd see in a museum, just heavy, ordinary silver. Gifted to me by my husband, Thomas, on our 10th wedding anniversary. Every scratch on that teapot told a story. The time our son, David, knocked it over trying to reach the cookies. The afternoon my father spilled tea during his final visit. It was my history. It was the safe container of my memories. And that is why the memory of that day, the day I learned it was gone, is still so sharp. It cuts deeper than any pain I had felt before. It wasn't just theft, it was the deliberate, casual selling of my past. I stood in my own dining room, staring into the empty drawer where it should have been. The drawer was dark green velvet, and I could see the outline, the perfect ghost of where the teapot had rested for over 2 decades. Visual, close up on Eleanor's hand opening the drawer. Her hand is trembling. The drawer is empty. I didn't cry. My eyes were completely dry. The feeling was too cold for tears. It was pure shock. It was the realization that the woman I had welcomed like a daughter did not see me as family. She saw me as an obstacle. She saw my memories as currency. When I finally found her, she was in the living room, flipping through magazines for new furniture. The morning sun was shining, and she looked perfectly cheerful. "Sarah," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded cracked, like old porcelain. "The tea set. Did you move the silver tea set?" She looked up, annoyed that her reading was interrupted. "Oh, that old thing," she said, not a hint of shame in her voice. "Yes, I took it to the consignment shop last Tuesday. We needed the money for the new vanity in the bathroom." She sold my memories for a bathroom vanity, for something shiny and new in her new life. And that was the exact moment I realized I had not simply been betrayed, I had been erased. Audio, the melancholy piano note holds, then slowly fades into a warmer, nostalgic acoustic guitar melody, signaling the journey back to the beginning. Narrator, the hard thing about betrayal is that it rarely announces itself. It starts small. It starts with love. My life with Thomas was simple and beautiful. We were high school sweethearts who built our life here, in this quiet, sturdy house. Thomas was a contractor. He believed in things that lasted. This house, these walls, were his masterpiece. They were built on solid ground. And our son, David, was our whole world. Visual, photos of David growing up, fishing with his father, graduating college. Eleanor looks proud and happy in the background of the photos. When Thomas passed 5 years ago, I thought my heart would stop entirely. The silence in the house was a physical presence. It was heavy, and it followed me from room to room. I became accustomed to the quiet routine of widowhood, tea for one, Sunday visits from David, and long hours spent tending Thomas's rose garden. I prayed for David to find someone. I wanted him to be happy. I wanted a daughter, too. I had so much love stored up, love that needed a place to go. And then David introduced me to Sarah. She was radiant, everything a young woman should be, polite, attentive, and seemingly devoted to David. Visual, a flashback to the first meeting. Eleanor and Sarah hugging awkwardly but warmly. I remember their first Christmas together in this house. Sarah spent the whole afternoon helping me wrap gifts and bake cookies. She complimented my antique wooden ornaments, the ones Thomas and I had collected. "This is so sweet, Eleanor," she told me, carefully placing a reindeer on the tree. "It feels like a real family Christmas." I melted. I thought, this is it. My family is growing, not shrinking. When they got engaged 6 months later, I was ecstatic. I gave Sarah the necklace that belonged to my grandmother, a simple gold chain with a pearl. It was the only thing of real value, sentimental value, that is. Visual, the wedding. Eleanor is dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. She is filled with happiness. On their wedding day, I felt like I was gaining a daughter, not losing a son. I stood next to David and watched them exchange vows, and I thought, Thomas, we did well. He found his happiness. The first cloud on the horizon was subtle, so subtle I dismissed it immediately. After the wedding, they decided they needed to save money to buy a house. David suggested they move in with me for a year or two. "The house is so big, Mom," he reasoned, "and we can help with the maintenance, just like Dad used to." It sounded perfect. Company, help, and my son home again. "Of course, darlings," I told them. "This is your home. Come back. We will have so much fun." I was so blinded by my excitement that I missed the slight hesitation in Sarah's eyes. She didn't look excited. She looked calculating. Visual montage of moving day. The master bedroom being cleared of Eleanor's things and filled with Sarah's newer, more minimalist furniture. I insisted they take the master bedroom. It was bigger and it overlooked the garden. I moved my things into the smaller, quieter guest room. I told myself it was just a temporary sacrifice, a gesture of love. When they moved in, the dynamic shifted immediately, but so quietly you could barely notice. I noticed the scent first. Sarah had a very strong, modern perfume. This old house, which usually smelled of wood polish and rose water, suddenly smelled sharp and synthetic. I started opening windows immediately. Then came the kitchen. Visual, the kitchen. Eleanor is reaching for the sugar jar on the counter, but it's gone. The way Thomas and I set up the kitchen was based on 30 years of routine. The salt was here, the sugar there. The coffee mugs hung exactly so. 3 days after they moved in, I went to make my morning tea. The sugar jar was gone from its spot. I searched and found it tucked away on the highest shelf in the pantry. I needed a step stool to reach it. Sarah walked in, perfectly dressed in her silk robe. "Oh, I moved that, Eleanor," she said without apology. "Countertops should be clear. It's better for the aesthetic. I hope you don't mind." I did mind. It felt like a tiny invasion. But what could I say? "I mind that you moved my sugar jar"? That sounds ridiculous. It sounds petty. "Oh, no, dear," I lied, climbing onto the stool, my knees protesting. "I'll just get used to the new spot." And that was my first fatal mistake. I chose silence over discomfort. I chose false peace over truth. I didn't realize that in Sarah's world, a clear countertop was a metaphor for a clear life. A life cleared of anything old, sentimental, or belonging to me. Audio, the acoustic guitar fades, replaced by a slightly more complex, building orchestral piece, suggesting the start of conflict. The quiet war started immediately after the sugar jar incident. Sarah began to systematically replace my choices with hers, one small item at a time. The floral china, the one I used for holidays, was relegated to a box in the attic. We need a modern, neutral base for food presentation. Sarah explains to David, right in front of me. She never spoke to me about the changes. She spoke around me. My small frame pictures of Thomas and David were moved off the mantelpieces. Sarah replaced them with a single abstract metal sculpture. Clutter attracts dust, Eleanor, she said, dusting the new sculpture with a feather duster. It's so much cleaner this way, more intentional. My memories were now clutter. My late husband's smiling photo was now dust. I felt the dignity draining out of me. Every time I wanted to object, I imagined David's disappointed face. I didn't want to be that mother, the one who made her son choose between her wife and her mother over a set of dishes. The hardest part was the slow